fellow panelists, and all who have attended this conference, and also thank the opportunity given to me by the organizers of this conference to say a few words. They say I'm the keynote addresser, but they did not give me the key, it doesn't matter. But I thank the opportunity that has been given to me to address this important gathering. I feel that my status has been elevated, and because I'm considered worthy of addressing what in my opinion, is the creme de la creme of the provincial intellectuals. I feel seriously humbled. Thank you very much for the opportunity. The subject of ethical leadership, in my view, is critically important, especially given the developments in our country, as well as the disclosures that have been happening at the State Capture Commission. The previous speakers have said quite a lot in this regard, and it then shows that ethics as a compass of our behavior is critically important to guide our behavior in whatever venture we find ourselves in. Ethics are the only assurance, in my view, that a country or any institution does not degenerate to anarchy. More important, in my view, is that while this conference is to discuss ethics and set parameters of acceptable behavior, as well as assisting to develop within us a consciousness where we are able to do the right thing almost instinctively, it is also a conference. It is also a conference that is a stark reminder of the fact that as South Africans, in all walks of life, we need to continuously hold ourselves accountable and actually give account about our actions. And if that were not to be our lifestyle, particularly in leadership, it would lead to disaster. In short, ethical living starts at the top and nowhere else. In any company, institutions or government, if institutions or government were to succeed in their avowed mission, it must be led with integrity. Edward Hennessy quips, ethics must begin at the top of an organization. It is a leadership issue, and the chief executive must set an example. As a lawyer by training, I always like to begin with definitions. I know definitions can present problems, but that's what I've been trained to do, so I will stick to my training. Any institution, public or private, government or civil, that seeks to impact any community in a positive way, as well as maintaining and sustaining a positive and clean image, must have a set of ethical values that guide its operations. If not, it will perpetually emotionally rape the citizens, customers or clients. Ethical living, and I quote, ethical living is the indispensable condition of all that is most worthwhile in the world. And I quote Ernest Caldecott, an American professor of psychology. This underscores the importance of the subject of today's meeting. Moving from this premise, how do we define ethical leadership? Let me start by looking at leadership and ethics or integrity separately. John C. Maxwell defines a leader in the following terms. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way and shows the way. Somewhere he also quips, leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. Potter Stewart defines ethics in the following manner. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. You have a right to smoke, but it is not right to do that in any way that harms the health of others. You may have a right to smoke even here in this room, but it will not be right because some of us are non-smokers and you don't want to be passive smokers. You have a right of speech, but it is not right to say something that is hurtful or degrade others. Therefore, it is important to make the distinction of what is right and to make a distinction of what is the right thing to do and what is right at the same time. Moving from this premise, it is clear that if leadership is about knowing the way and showing it, leadership is also about adopting ethical values that will assist you to know and show the correct path, thus influencing those who follow you correctly and humanly. In short, ethical leadership is leadership based on a set of moral values that are meant to enhance the good in all of us, thus assisting us to perform our duties not only for our benefit and good, but for the good of others as well. I want to boldly state that unless any organization, any government, any institution is led in this manner, it is bound in the long run to fail, not just itself, but its followers as well. I believe that what is happening in this country is a daily testimony to what I'm saying. It is important, however, to note that ethical leadership is not an easy topic. It is difficult. There are many difficult areas that we have to navigate in order to get to the right answer. For instance, some of us who are in the public space, working in government, one of the biggest problems that we are faced with when it comes to ethical leadership is denialism. Just make a statement about the lack of ethics in some government, and some government spokesperson will be tripping over themselves, trying to convince us that this is untrue. Yet those of us within the system know that some of the SMMEs have collapsed because officials have refused to process their payments for services rendered unless they produced the brown envelope. This is among the chief reasons why government cannot pay within 30 days as is demanded by the law. This is coupled by the fact that there is a lack of consequence management. How many departments have returned a disclaimer, have been given a disclaimer by the Auditor General, yet the HODs, the Director Generals, are still there in their jobs, whilst the PFMA demands that when your department that you lead has serious problem, you are personally made to account. None of the leaders in the public space have been made to account. And at the same time, we try to massage the truth and sugarcoat the truth and make people believe that all is well in the state of Denmark, when all is not well in the state of Denmark. It is even worse at the local government sphere, where political expediency always seems to overshadow ethical leadership. Rules are bent in order to ensure a particular outcome in a municipality. Etegwini municipality is the case in point, where even some of the clergy, the people who are supposed to be the epitome of ethical leadership, some of the clergy have been siphoning funds meant to pay EPWP workers. When you see the streets not being swept, you know where the money has gone to. Last month, I visited a shop together with the Premier and other MECs, and one of the stoppages that we made was at a water treatment. I had visited the water treatment in 2012 when I was Director General, and it was still in the same condition that it was 7 years ago, 9 years ago, when I visited the water treatment as a Director General. The problems that they were telling to the Premier were the same problems that they briefed me as Director General about. It is a MIG-funded project, so there is money for the project. There is money to develop the project. The big question, where is the money? Where has that money gone to? Because even if it has not been misappropriated, the return back of the money to treasury, which is meant to alleviate the plight of the poor, is unethical in itself. In some it is sometimes even part of the difficulty has to do, maybe, I think, with some of our cultural practices. You know, those of us of the Zulu background, you know, when you meet as Izinsizwa, Esbayeni, and you cut the meat, it is always said that iqatha lokuqala elomqobi. The one who cuts the meat must eat first. But counterpose that cultural belief to a seafarer's code. A ship that is sinking, when a ship is sinking, the captain is the last person out. Now for me, in a different setting, the seafarer's code is more ethical than my cultural belief, which I've lived with for many years, because I can't be a manager of government resources, then I'm the first one to benefit from those resources, while the poor look at me. Because in fact, people forget that when you are a government employee, already you have enjoyed the first bite of the meat, because you are paid. That's the first bite of the meat. So we need to navigate these cultural issues, which may be indirectly governing the way that we behave, and some of our behaviors then lead to some of actions that we define as unethical. The other problem that we have to navigate is the instinct of self-preservation. I have had many times in government when a official wants to talk the truth, and they say, no, I can't say this because it is career limiting. So that you will then turn a blind eye to things that are going wrong because you are preserving your career. And you forget that in the first place, you were employed in order to facilitate a better life for the citizens of the country. And a better life of the citizens of the country can only be facilitated if things are done the right way. The truth at times does breed hatred, and this challenges the endeavor of ethical leadership, and people are therefore constrained in telling the truth, particularly within government space. And even some of those who are of Christian background as I am, who believe that Jesus hung on the cross because he spoke the truth. They would not speak the truth because they want to preserve themselves and preserve their careers. It is a big problem within the public space. However, what then should we do? It is good that we meet here and talk about ethical leadership. But talking on its own will not solve the problem. It is good that we have a president who at least make the right noises on ethical issues. But that on its own is not the solution. We need to have a clear and concrete program that addresses issues of ethical leadership. I attended a workshop some years ago in Zanzibar, and one of the speakers in that workshop was the renowned Professor Lumumba, who was saying that if you want to address issues of integrity and ethics, you need then to identify which country, which province, which city is going to be the anchor of integrity. Where do you anchor? Which of these cities, which of these provinces, which of these countries are going to be the best practice when it comes to issues of ethical leadership? So talking in itself is not enough. A program of action needs to be worked out, and I'm not trying to market myself, but there is a program that I can suggest in the public arena. For instance, why should we not have ethical training for leaders in government, which happens on a regular basis? One of the speakers here says values have to be taught. I agree. I go to church every Sunday, not because my Christian beliefs are short of anything, but because there is a need that I be reminded on a regular basis of what is the right thing to do. So it is important that we pressurize government that on a regular basis, government must have ethical training for for the leaders in government, for senior management in government. And it has happened, at least within KwaZulu-Natal, and it has produced results. At a particular point, we even started a campaign that was based on a very good thing: I do right even when no one is watching. And in that campaign, we divided it into 3 legs. The first leg was the commitment of the leadership, where we called all the leadership to an integrity management leadership conference, where they committed themselves in writing to working with integrity. And not only that, we then ensured that that commitment found itself into their performance contracts, so that somebody then must be assessed on integrity at the end of the end and not get a performance bonus even though he has not been practicing ethical leadership. The second leg was to meet with the service providers and assure those service providers that even if they don't pay prices, they will get government contracts. That is very important. That's a very important message coming from government itself, to go to the service providers who are providing services to government to say, even if you don't give us the brown envelopes, you will still get your contracts. The third one must have to do, of course, with the Mpimpa hotline, because those who are offenders, consequences must follow. There must be consequence management. There must be whistleblowers, and we won't do like Trump, who's busy now trying to find out who is the whistleblower on the Ukraine issue. We need to protect the whistleblowers. We need to ensure that the work that they do of exposing corrupt practices within government happens without hindrance. Let me conclude my input by quoting again my favorite professor, Professor Lumumba, who says that the problem in Africa is that we elect hyenas to look after the sheep, and then we wonder when the sheep go missing. That is very important, because you have a number of people, even in the legislature, even in parliament, who have doubtful histories, who have skeletons in their cupboards, yet they are put in positions of responsibility where they should be in charge of resources of the country. You can't give a thief money and hope that that thief will use the money correctly. It is impossible. So it is important that we begin now to ensure, as civil society, to ensure that those who go into these positions of responsibility, and I'm talking about this across party line, those who go into this responsibility must pass a particular test which shows them up as people living ethically. As human beings, we are in the perpetual struggle for perfection. To attain it, we need to hone and mold our consciousness in a particular way. The foundation of that exercise must be ethical living. Ethics are the only guide to perfection, and as earlier demonstrated, it starts with the top. Unless and until leaders lead with integrity, our country is doomed. Let me paraphrase the words of Charles de Gaulle when he was campaigning to be president of France, when he said, "It's either me or the deluge." And I say to South Africa, it's either ethical leadership or the deluge and catastrophic disaster. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngidi, for the very insightful and enjoyable address. Mr. Ngidi highlighted the fact that ethical leadership starts at the top, and he also unpacked and demystified the concept for the notion of ethical leadership. He also highlighted the issue of lack of consequent management, and also